everyone. Welcome back to Keeping Up with the Chaldeans. I'm Anthony Toma, your host, and my co-host Junior Binu. No Junior Binu today. He's off in sunny Miami, enjoying soaking up the sun. He'll be back soon though. Here today with our guest Kyle Azzo. He's from Motor City Legal Funding. He's going to tell you a little bit about the benefits of using his company when a certain tragedy strikes. So take it away.
No, thanks for having me. It's exciting to be here. Yeah, so it's very simple, but at the same time, it's also very complicated in regards to the rules and regulations that we have to follow. Nobody is actually aware of the business. No one knows really what it is until they have to be involved in it. So basically what it is you get get into an accident very commonly, or any kind of business dispute. We've done divorces and things like that. But essentially, you get into an accident, and as an example, you break both your legs. You see a lot of these guys on TV, these high-powered attorneys that have all these TV commercials that you see all the time, and the whole "we fight for you" and all the things that they talk about on their commercials. What they don't talk about is the actual process and what it goes through, what you have to go through as far as the court system. Court system is obviously jammed up. They're very behind on everything, especially with COVID that just happened. So they're months and months behind. And a lot of times these cases will take, 2-3 years to settle before you finally get your money.
Sure.
And, who's working, who's paying the bills? Your insurance company's not covering you because you're suing them. Mm-hmm. So, what do you do? And that's kind of where we come in. The attorneys will reach out to us and, they'll say, hey, we have a case here. We're suing. We have coverage of, as an example, let's say $100,000, and they need some funding to hold them over until the case settles. Mm-hmm. So, they'll call us up. We evaluate the case, and if we feel that it's worth it, we'll loan them the money. And eventually, when the case settles, they basically just pay us back, and it's as simple as that. The difference is that it's not legally considered a loan. It's legally considered funding. What does that mean? Well, that means that we don't care their credit score. We don't care about their income. We don't really care about anything except for the case. So the biggest perk about it is that if the case loses or gets dismissed or you don't win anything, you don't have to pay us back. And that's basically the biggest perk of it, is that if nothing happens, if you don't get anything, we don't get anything. And that's kind of really what draws people, because if you go and apply for a traditional loan, credit cards or things like that, they want to know all those things. They want your credit score, they want your assets, they want your tax returns, we don't care about any of that stuff.
Right.
And that's really what makes this industry different from the rest.
So you talked about an accident. Give us an example of what kind of accidents you're talking about and what would be covered from your insurance or from, I guess, the liable party's insurance.
Well, it's interesting, and the attorneys are notorious for this. They'll tell you that the insurance companies, it's a tug of war. You have the attorneys pulling on your side, then you have the insurance companies pulling on their side. The insurance companies really, they're in the business of selling and collecting premiums without paying the benefits. That's their model.
Trying not to pay the benefits.
Trying not to pay the benefits, yeah, exactly.
Do everything under their power not to pay the benefits.
Of course, yeah. And then obviously you have the attorneys, and then in some circumstances you obviously have, certain people that abuse the system. And why do I say that? Because one ruins, you ruin for one, you ruin for all. Mm-hmm. So because of that, they have to treat everybody the same. So when you have a few people that abuse the system, that really makes the rest of us suffer. So what'll happen is, I had here's a great example. So I had a client of mine who would call me. She was on a Detroit City bus that got T-boned by a police car. Mm-hmm. Now the attorneys will salivate for that, because you have the bus companies, and then you also have the city of Detroit, with the police company, or with the police car that hit.
Yeah.
So she came to us, great woman. She had a head injury, and I believe she broke her arm or her shoulder. I can't remember which one it was. And then she also broke her ankle, and then she dislocated her knee. Jeez. So it was a bad accident. And I really felt for her. I really felt bad for her. And she had a settlement offer, because the insurance company knew they were going to have to pay. So one of the things with the insurance company is that they have to make a decision. They decide, is it worth it to pay an attorney to fight the case if we can get the benefits lowered far enough, or is it better for us just to pay the benefits without going through the attorneys?
Right.
She hired an attorney. They gave her an offer. I believe it was around $300,000, if I'm not mistaken. And she said no. She wanted $500,000. That was her number. She goes, I need at least $500,000. So they ended up going through the whole process. It went to trial. It took, I think, around 3.5 years. She came to us. She says, listen, she goes, I can't afford to live. She goes, I can't work. She goes, I'm in and out of hospitals. I'm in and out of physical therapy. I got to go to trial. I'm doing my DEPs. I'm doing my treatment. And she goes, and I can't pay my bills. We gave her, if I recall correctly, it was around $20,000 to $22,000, somewhere around there. And obviously when her case settled at trial, she ended up winning for about $500,000 or so. Great settlement. Attorneys were very happy. She was very happy. And, she obviously paid us back, with interest. That's how it goes. The biggest issue is that the attorneys don't like us. In many cases, we don't like them. So, you kind of have to work together to make everything work. The attorneys don't want to settle too quickly, because if they settle too quickly, then they're kind of giving up a lot of their leverage, because the insurance companies know that their clients are struggling financially. Mm-hmm. At the same time, they don't want them to abuse the service, because eventually if you take out too much money and you get a settlement that's maybe not what you were hoping for, then you lose a lot of that. So that's what gets the attorneys upset. It gets the clients upset. So there's really a fine line that you have to walk when it comes to valuing these cases.
Don't these attorneys, they're taking them on contingency, right?
Yes.
So don't these attorneys get paid off the total amount of the settlement anyway?
They do, and that's actually a great question, because they do get paid on the total settlement. So you might say to yourself, what do they care? Well, you also have to remember that if the client's not happy and they don't sign their release, then the attorney doesn't get paid. So at the same time, the client has to agree to the settlement. If they say, if somebody has a settlement, let's say it's worth $50,000, and I give them a loan for $30,000, and after they pay their attorney, after they pay their court costs, they pay us, they're going to walk away with $500. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to sign the release. I'm not signing it. So then this puts the attorney in an awkward position, because they did all the work. They want to get their commission. The client they want their client to get paid, but at the same time, we come in and we say, hey, we're obviously the bad guy, and says, hey, you owe us this, mm-hmm. and which a lot of the other companies do, and it can potentially hold up a case for a very long time until they get it resolved.
So typically within the industry, there's a certain, I guess, fee associated with this funding, with this legal funding, right?
Yes.
So typically there's a rate, and then so you came in and you saw an opportunity, because of the infrastructure that you already kind of had in place, and the resources that you already have in place that really don't affect your bottom line as much as they do others. How do you? Why is it better for someone to come see you, Motor City Legal Funding, than to go to another funding?
It's a great story, actually. I'd like to think of myself as an entrepreneur. So I always try to look things from a different light. I was dating my wife at the time, and we were out for dinner, and obviously she's an attorney, great attorney. Hi, babe, love you.
You give her a shout out.
Yeah, Lauren, love you, babe. She works for John Marco in Detroit, who used to be with Jeffrey Feiger. Used to be real close with Feiger. He still is, I guess. But nice. Great guy, love him. I've spoken with him many times, and they have a big firm out in Detroit. But we were dating at the time, and we went out for dinner. And me being me, you're dating, gotta act like you can do everything, everything. And she could look at me, she'd be like, hey, would you kill somebody for me? I'd be like, yeah, sure, why not? So we're talking, and I start pressing her a little bit on her career choice, and I start saying, why did you become a lawyer? I go, nobody likes lawyers. I go, who wants to go and see their divorce lawyer? Who wants to go and see their bankruptcy lawyer? Who wants to go and see their criminal lawyer? I go, nobody likes lawyers. I go, why would you take a career like that? And she pulls this one on me. She goes, if you think we're bad, she goes, you need to take a look at these loan companies that we deal with.
Oh, boy.
So I go, tell me more. So I come from a finance background. I went to Walsh College. So I come from a finance and accounting background. And she starts explaining to me the business. And she starts telling me, what these companies do. And I really started to get intrigued. She goes, because some of them will charge 80, 90, 100% interest. So my first question was, doesn't that violate usury laws? She goes, no, because they're not loans. They're considered funding. I go, why are they charging 100%? I mean, you can charge 50% and make a great living. And that's when I really started to realize that...
That's after you kind of did the math.
Yeah, you realize that, once you factor in the marketing costs, because they were targeting the plaintiffs directly. So when you factor in what it costs to acquire a customer, what the default rate was. Default rates are astounding. The default rate's around 30%. So if you do 3 loans,
Talk about what causes a default rate.
basically the case settles for no money. So if the case settles for no money, it gets dismissed, whatever the case may be. I mean, there's a million different scenarios, but the case settles and they get $0. Well, we lose too. It's a non-recourse loan. So a non-recourse, well, I shouldn't say loan funding. It's non-recourse funding. So if the case doesn't settle for enough money or any money, then we legally cannot go after the client. We lose the whole thing. So you do 2 loans for, let's say, $1,000 a piece. One goes cold and the other one pays out. You're still in the red. So the default rate, the operating expenses, the marketing costs, all these things was really running up their expenses. So they had to charge 80-90% to survive. And we kind of looked at it from a different light. My brother and I, who's my business partner, we decided to ourselves, why should we go after the customer? Like, why don't we target the attorneys? So we started with my wife first and her firm, and a lot of the attorneys were working with us, and we said, listen, we'll work with you, you'll work with us. What are they charging you now? They're charging us 90%. We said, okay, we'll charge you 30. We'll charge you 40, which is about, to cover our costs, we'll make a little bit, and then your clients will be happy, and they're still saving 40 points. And that's what happened, and they loved us, and eventually, as it works in every industry, the attorneys will leave the firm, they'll go to other firms, and they kept calling us. So one firm turned into 2, turned into 5, turned into 10, turned into, people calling us off the hook because they wanted to all get in on it.
And is this, are there any regulations to funding someone that's not in Michigan?
Not really. Now, every state follows a different set of laws, or I guess you could say regulation, in regards to the PI world. So Michigan and
PI world, personal injury.
Personal injury, personal injury, And so Michigan has more benefits in the country, being a no-fault state, than other states do. Now, Whitmer just recently passed a law changing the insurance policy, I should say changing the insurance world, which was supposedly supposed to decrease rates. Now, we haven't seen that yet, but who knows if that'll happen down the road or not.
So it's been put into law. So the law is.
Well, they changed the law.
They
changed it. Yeah. So you might have seen this on your auto insurance. When they ask you to re-up. There are certain things that you have to apply for. Your PIP, which is your medical side, and then you have your third party, which is your, as they call it, your pain and suffering side that you have to pay for the coverage. In places like Florida, for example, if I'm not mistaken, I believe that it's capped at $75,000. So you break both legs, both arms, you're getting $75,000. That's it. That's all you can apply for. In Michigan, you can have coverage that's unlimited. So you can get futures as high as $10 million if your accident serves it.
Health benefits, therapy.
With health benefits and things like that, therapy and So it really, the regulations not really differ from state to state with our industry, but you really have to be cognizant of what their laws are as far as what the benefits are. As I gave in the example before, if you overfund, you're going to walk away with nothing. Right. So you say to yourself, you really have to be cognizant of that.
Yeah. Sounds like a risky proposition on your end, really.
It is. Yeah, it was a lot of fun actually. I always ask people. And I asked it to you back there. I says, what happens if you have a great business idea? What's the first thing you do when you have a great business? If you're an entrepreneur and you need $100,000, what's the first thing you do?
If you're Chaldean.
If you're Chaldean, yeah.
Okay.
What did I tell you?
You said call mom.
Call mom. So, I call my mom and says, Mom, I have a business idea and I need $100,000. As most people would think, and as my mom thought, she goes, you're crazy. But mom can never say no. So call up mom, and there's always strings attached. So she says to me, she goes, I'll give you $100,000 on one condition. And that's when my heart just fell to my toes because I knew it was coming. She goes, you got to bring in your brother. 50-50. Wonderful. So called my brother and didn't even ask me a question. He looks at me. He goes, how much money you need? And I go, wow, this is how much I'm putting in. This is how much mom's putting in. I go, this is how much you got to put in. And writes me a check. He goes, just let me know when I can come to collect. I go, no problem. So And that's kind of how it evolved. And he's actually been a great partner. He was with Quicken Loans and Loan Depot. He was in the mortgage industry for a while. And he had a lot of attorneys that he would run into all the time in his buildings. They were out in Southfield in Detroit. He ran into attorneys all the time, so I was constantly meeting people. And he was introducing me to them, and it just kind of worked out to be a great relationship.
Do you want to drop his name?
Yeah, his name is Kevin Azzo. What's up, bro? How you doing? And he's probably still sleeping at this hour, but that's okay. But great guy, very smart, very, very street smart.
Yeah.
Very street smart. And I tend to think of myself as more the book smart kind of guy.
Okay. Yeah. So you mentioned he played a lot of poker or something like that.
Yeah, he's a very talented poker player. Travels the country playing at the WPT and the World Series. Very talented, and that's why I say he's very street smart. That's something that I've tried and I've failed miserably multiple times, but he is just very, very talented.
Gotcha.
Has a lot of other business ventures as well, but this one I think is really the one that kind of was the home run hit.
How did you? I understand how you got started, but what did you do before this?
So before this, I was actually involved. I was heavily involved in real estate. You guys have had a few realtors on your show in the past. And I was heavily involved. Obviously, I started in I think it was 2016, 2017. I was buying and selling, and obviously being the smart genius that I am, when I got engaged to my now wife, we ended up buying properties as opposed to just buying and selling for other people. During the pandemic, I saw an opportunity to acquire because the interest rates were so low. So everybody was refinancing. Everybody was trying to get in on the game. So what would be smarter when you have to plan a wedding, pay for the engagement party, the ring, all the festivities? These guys are not cheap. And then what would be smarter than to start a company and take $200,000 and put it into that, and then also buy 5 homes.
Yeah.
So I just thought you look as an entrepreneur, and you've had a lot of them on the show. As I told you earlier, the Harpy Company, Greg and Lauren, great people, being entrepreneurial. You look for opportunity no matter where it may hide.
Yeah.
So you really have to, the cards that you're dealt, you play the hand a little bit differently depending on what you have. And, we just see opportunity and we look for it. And, that's kind of how it came about.
For sure.
But real estate's always been good to me. I was involved with attorneys for a long time. I worked for a bankruptcy attorney here in Birmingham. I can't say his name, but did that for a while. And then obviously the legal funding was another thing I saw an opportunity. Found a niche that other companies weren't servicing.
So we talked about accidents. We talked about what types of accidents, but can you break it down? Who would benefit from Motor City legal funding?
Well, in the industry, and this is a question I get a lot, reputation is everything. I actually remember anybody who would benefit is somebody, again, if the case settles if you need to settle and you're struggling and you need the money now, the insurance companies know this.
Yep.
They know. They deal with it all day long. So, and they get paid, the attorneys get paid to delay the case. The insurance companies don't want to pay, but if they do have to pay, they want to pay in 5 years. They don't want to pay tomorrow. And, as far as the client is concerned, they're the exact opposite. They want to get paid right away. So anybody who's looking to gain leverage over them, any way you can, combat that is somebody who would benefit. Now, obviously, the ideal thing would be not to take it at all, because if you can survive without taking it, then you save yourself the interest. But, just not very many people have that luxury where they can go 2 years. I think even the top, if you ever watch, CNBC and all these guys on TV, business networks and whatever, they always say, make sure you have 6 months worth of savings to survive. You can pay your mortgage for 6 months, all your bills for 6 months. These cases, will go on for 2-3 years. Not too many people have that, just don't have that much cash in the bank.
These people are incapacitated or can't work, can't take a chance of working because they're injured and
they have to get treatment. They're constantly doing physical therapy. Yeah, so
they could hurt themselves worse.
They could hurt them, and it's happened. It's happened before. I've seen it, and it's tragic. And I deal, we've done thousands of cases, and I've heard almost everything.
Yeah.
I say almost everything. People who got shot, people who have just been in terrible, terrible situations. But interestingly enough, in this business, reputation is everything. And there is some truth to certain attorneys who have bad reputations in this kind of field. And I've dealt with that as well. I won't mention any names, but you have 85-90% of the attorneys that are very honest, they're very loyal, and they're very smart. But again, just as it is with anyone who abuses the system, they ruin it. The 5% that abuse it, they ruin it for the other 95%. You have the 5-10% of attorneys that ruin it for the other 90% of the attorneys who are actually honest. I actually had a very interesting conversation with one of the attorneys that I had worked with. And he flat out.
One of the good guys or one of the bad guys?
This is one of the bad guys.
Okay.
This is one of the good guys never get publicity. I mean, I've done work with. I'll do a few shout outs. I've done work with Dunya Bazi. She's an attorney out in Dearborn. Fantastic woman, very smart. So we've done a lot of business with her. We've done business with the Reifman law firm, Steve Reifman in Southfield. Great guy, very compassionate. I mean, outstanding guy. We've done work with obviously John Marco and my wife's firm. We've done work with, I'm trying to think of who else. Ron Puzio and Mark Geiger out of Southfield. I told you HHBR. Nasir Rasul, we've done work with him. Lawrence Cagey, done work with him. Great guy. But I had one meeting with an attorney, and it was very interesting. He flat out looks at me, right in my face. He looks at me. He goes, "I don't pay the loan companies, so I never pay them." I says, "Why not?" He goes, "Well, I have a legal obligation to represent the best interests of my client. So these companies are totally corrupt." So he goes, "I just flat out don't pay them. And legally I can do that because I'm representing the best interests of my client." I says, "Well, when the company comes to you and they say, hey, so-and-so needs a loan and you don't pay them," I go, "What happens when, they sue your client?" He goes, we drag them through the court system and eventually they pay us pennies on the dollar." And I got into a legal dispute with him, and he kind of looks at me and he goes, I get all my legal work for free. Because I'm an attorney. Because I get all my legal work for free. Because you really want to go down this road with me? And I look at him. I go, my wife's a lawyer too. I get all my stuff for free too. I go, let me ask you. I go, do you really want to go down this road with me?
Right.
And like I said, they're very rare. But when you do run into them, that's when I said reputation is everything. So that's where it lies and dies with us.
So what could a potential customer of yours that may have an accident in the future look out for when they are looking to hire an attorney?
That is a great question. References, personal references.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of them pay a lot of money to look good online, and social media today is a very I don't want to say fake, but it's a very misleading. Exactly. I guess you can say. You get people.
You can say fake.
You can say fake, I guess. Yeah, it's misleading. You get people that they look so happy, when they're smiling, and you got these, these people, these lawyers on TV with these big fancy checks,
Mm-hmm.
and it looks great online. But their billboards, they're like this, this kind of stuff, and it looks great. But I always try to encourage people to get personal references, people that people that you trust, not the things that you see online or the things that you see on TV where they pay for that kind of positive light that they shine on themselves. So positive references. Another thing that I always encourage people to do is look to see how many times the attorney's been sued. You go on the Oakland County Register of Deeds or Court Register or go on the Oakland County Court Register and just punch in the attorney's name and look and see how many times they've been sued.
Why would an attorney be sued?
Malpractice, breach of contract. I had a case where the client, they'll probably watch this, so they'll know who I'm talking about. I had a client who, they had a settlement for, I believe it was around $600,000, and this was back in 2018. The case was filed in 2016. They settled in 2018, $600,000. To this day, they have not been paid. Yeah, so when you call the attorney and you say, "Hey, what's going on?" They'll give you the runaround, and there's really nothing you can do except sue them. And so now they're going through another lawsuit to get their money out from the first lawsuit.
Yeah.
And I mean, it gets bad. It gets bad.
Are there any punitive damages in these kinds of cases? Do you know of?
Yes, there are. There are. There's something called conversion, which is very hard to win. Obviously, you can get attorney fees and court costs, things like that.
Okay.
But there's something called conversion, which basically whatever the damage is, they multiply it by. You can get a multiple of 3. So if he takes $600,000, he is potentially liable for $1.8 million. Is it going to happen? Most likely not.
Right.
But at the same time, those are things that you can find out, and it's all public record. You get an attorney who has been sued 2 times, because every attorney's been sued at least one point in their life. And then you have an attorney who's been sued 50 times. You can kind of use your own judgment to know which one would be the better one to go to.
Gotcha.
But my wife has worked for a few firms in the area. Very, very smart, incredibly talented. I wish she gave herself more credit. But she get references from other lawyers.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's another thing that you can do. They all know each other. It's a very small community.
Yeah.
And ask your real estate agent. Ask anybody.
Yeah, like I told you, my mom got hit by a car
Mention that
years ago.
Yeah.
And we used Brian Fanish, known him forever, good cat.
Yeah. Where's he work at? I didn't ask you.
Farmington.
Farmington, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm actually unfamiliar with him.
He married a Chaldean girl. He got a couple kids now.
Yeah.
God bless him.
Yeah, actually coming from myself, I wasn't actually 100% Chaldean. My father actually was Italian, so a lot of food around the holidays, and definitely the same kind of business mentality where it's cutthroat. Everything is always cutthroat. He was by far the best salesman I have ever seen in my entire life. I mean, this guy, as they always say, can sell ice to an Eskimo.
Yeah.
So
speaking of ice, U.S. ice.
Oh yeah, U.S. ice.
Perfect
In fact,
timing.
my wife actually knows them. I believe she's related to them in some fashion.
Yeah. That was.
Yeah. So, that's kind of funny. He was. By far the most fantastic salesperson I've ever seen in my life. My mother, incredibly smart woman, very talented. Growing up, my parents got divorced young, so
What
my
area
mother.
did you grow up in?
West Bloomfield.
Okay.
West Bloomfield, Birmingham, my whole life. I have a lot of family still in Windsor, Ontario, across the border. Yeah, so I spent a lot of time out there.
Canucks.
The Canucks, yeah. Toronto, the Maple Leafs, yeah, they were big fans of those. And they really taught me. We weren't growing up. We weren't really wealthy. We were middle class. As most people, paycheck to paycheck. And my mother was constantly reinventing herself. She worked for.
God bless her.
Yeah, they were big into the health clubs for a long time, the powerhouses, and then she reinvented herself to work for a neurosurgeon. So she was running his old office. She was a manager at the time, and now she works in IT. She works for a collection agency doing IT work. So,
cool.
English being, well, I shouldn't say maybe her second language, but it was very difficult because they really didn't have degrees. They really didn't have college educations. Right. So to go from health clubs to the medical field to the IT field. She was very, very talented as far as how she can always reinvent herself.
So you mentioned your brother. Do you have any other siblings?
No, just my younger brother. Yeah,
right,
that's enough for me.
Yeah.
One is too many.
Right.
So it's always the conversation I have with my wife now. And people always ask us how many kids, and I always say, man, I go 2 is too many. But
do you have any children?
No,
okay.
No, not yet. We've been married now. We got married at the height of the pandemic.
Okay.
So it was very.
So you should have 6 kids by now.
Yeah, you would think so, right?
Locked up in the house.
Yeah, you couldn't go anywhere. There was nothing to do, right?
Right.
So no, we got. Well, what was interesting is that when we got married, and my wife is. She sees the world I don't want to say she sees the world, but she's always thinking in the negative. Her mindset's always in the negative. I go, why are you so negative? I go, you gotta be positive. So, obviously, planning our wedding during the pandemic, the question was always, this is never gonna happen. The place is gonna shut down. We actually went to 5.
That's not negative. That's what we were being fed constantly.
Realistic, yeah.
All day, every day.
Yeah,
bombarded, inundated. We were we were.
It was tough.
Yeah,
it was tough. Yeah,
the human race got put through the ringer.
Yeah, they were, and it was one thing for for the real estate industry is that everybody was sandbagging. You had people that weren't getting married, so they weren't buying houses, and then you had low interest rates. People were living in their basements, and it was one of the reasons why I told my wife when we got engaged, I'm like, we gotta buy a house before we get married. I know this is gonna be crazy, but well, with our wedding, we actually had to change the venue 5 times before. During the pandemic, because everywhere we kept going kept getting shut down.
Yeah, restrictions and shit.
Luckily enough, so we were actually going to get married at Pine Lake because I love Shenandoah, love Pettis, right? But I've been there at least 1,000 times, and if I had to be wedding 1001, I was gonna freak out.
Right.
So we actually planned it at Pine Lake Country Club at the time, and they got shut down a week before our wedding. Luckily enough, her father, my wife's father, was best friends with the guy that owned Regency in Southfield. So we gave him a call, and he kind of gets on the phone with us. He goes, I'll take care of it. I go, you do know our wedding's in 5 days.
Yeah.
I'll take care of it. I go, it's COVID. You going to be open? He goes, I'll take care of it.
What month was this?
This was in September. I'm glad I got that right.
Okay.
It was 9/19. Yeah. If I got that wrong, that'd be bad on TV. So he calls us 5 days later, pulled it off. I mean, beautifully pulled it off during COVID. And then, unfortunately, about 3 days after our wedding, they got shut down. Yeah. So we got lucky there.
Regency, that's my cousin, Amir Najer.
Yeah,
It's my first cousin.
Yeah.
One of the closest people to my mom. And actually, my mom died on that day, 9/19.
No kidding.
Yeah.
2020?
Yes.
No kidding. That was the day we got married. Oh, my God. I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah, no, it's
about
crazy.
Coincidence.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, my God. Yeah. My dad passed away. I'll give him a shout. He passed away 2 years ago as well from. I think you told me it was cancer, right?
Yeah.
So he passed away from pancreatic cancer. It's I don't know if I can say this on TV, but it's a bitch.
Yeah,
life's
cancer's
a bitch.
Fuck cancer.
Yeah. So, but it's just anything else. You give. You play the cards that life gives you, and you just keep moving on. And one of the things that I've learned, and it's when I talk to other entrepreneurs, because I've done a few other business ventures. Obviously, I've worked very closely with Harpy and their brand.
Thanks for getting them on the show.
Oh yeah. No, I watch your
blast.
I watch your show all the time. Yeah, it was fun to watch. Greg, Lauren, what's up? So one of the things that I've learned, and one of the things I try to explain to with other entrepreneurs, my fellow entrepreneurs, I guess you can call them, is that it's a dog eat dog world. Anybody will run you over for $1.
Sure.
And it's one of the hardest things because they want to do the right thing. They want to have their integrity high. They want to be loyal to people. But I mean, at the same time, you always got to be looking over your shoulder. There's always somebody willing to take it away from you. There's always somebody willing to what's the phrase? There's always someone looking to eat your lunch.
Yeah.
There's always that schoolyard bully out there.
Sure thing.
And it's really you just got to keep trucking along. Yeah. I'm sure you've been through it before.
Oh yeah, many times. Sometimes it's the closest people that are your friends that you go into business with that are the ones that
family disputes are terrible.
It doesn't work out with them, and for whatever reason, and we can all point the finger at someone else, but you got to look at yourself and hold yourself accountable. Take the blame for whatever, as long as they weren't doing anything shisty or shady. Then.
First thing I always say to people when they come to me with business abuse, I get them all the time, and I don't know why people come to me. Maybe because they think I know a lot of lawyers, which I mean I guess is true.
You're tall.
Maybe they're looking for the enforcer.
Yeah.
But one of the things I always ask people, and I get it all the time. Whose fault is it? It's this guy's fault. It's that guy's fault. It's this guy's fault. I go, who lost money? Well, I lost money. I go, then it's your fault.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? I go, who lost the money? I lost the money. I go, then it's your fault. I go, you can blame everybody you want. You can blame the government. You can blame this guy and that guy. I go, it's your fault.
Who gave him the money?
I know, right?
The money?
If I lost
that person in charge of your money.
Yeah, I mean, if I lost my mother's money, I'd hate to say it was my mother's fault.
A lot of added pressure there.
Oh my God. Well, it was funny because when we first started, and this was the thing that really got me. When we first started, we started with a good amount of money. I mean, it was a good amount. It was the world to me and my brother. I mean, it was our life savings.
Yeah.
And obviously, I had my mother's money that I was responsible for. And when we first started, I thought that it would at least last us our first year. And I thought we would have enough in the bank to at least get us through our first year. Well, we ended up getting through our first 3 months before it was all gone.
Bye-bye.
So when I call my mom again, I go, listen, I go, that money that you gave me, I go, I need more.
But it's working. It wasn't like it was gone, invested, and gone. But it was money that was working to gain.
It was working. But the thing is that, again, you have to live to see the end of the case.
Sure.
And the cases take 2 years. So, you're putting money out, but you're not really... You get some that settle early. You get some of them.
Yeah, but you got to build the pipeline.
You got to build the pipeline.
Yeah.
Exactly. And, you got to wait the 2 years before the money starts coming in. So, so then, what do? You go to other family members, you go to friends, and, it got scary. It got really scary. Yeah. It was very risky, and luckily, they've all been paid back with interest.
Nice.
And so, it's, and it definitely builds up your credibility. Sure. Now, they're calling me, hey, you need money. I'm good right now.
Yeah,
I'm good.
That's awesome.
So,
well, thanks for coming out. Thanks for doing this. Thanks for sharing your service with the Chaldean, keeping up with the Chaldean viewers. And
I want to say, I think it's, I apologize for interrupting. I want to say, I think it's great what you guys are doing, keeping the community, intact and, making connections. And I think really giving back and shining a light on the Chaldean Entrepreneurs. I really enjoy watching it and listening to their stories.
So we close out shows by asking, what does it mean to you to be Chaldean?
What does it mean for me to be Chaldean? That's a great question. I guess the number one thing, this was actually the first year I was not in Michigan for Thanksgiving. I was actually in Florida visiting family. And one of the things I get most commonly, especially from my friends, is the family influence. The running joke in my house is that my wife didn't marry me because she loved me. She married me to get to my mom. So, they always say, you marry your mother. What I mean? I married my mom. I mean, they are long lost sisters, mother, daughter. I mean, like they love each other more than they love me. Which is exactly. Which is something that not everybody can say. So I really cherish that. And I certainly hope she didn't marry her father. Don't show him this video. What's up, Francie? How are you, sir? I guess I just say, the family community around me. I mean, this business would never have been possible if it wasn't for my family. I borrowed money from a lot of family members, and had I lost it, they probably would have forgiven me, but I would have never forgiven myself. Yeah. So to be Chaldean, I mean, I guess it's just the sphere of influence of your family and knowing that they're always behind you no matter what happens. Yeah. So, I mean, I guess that would be Italians are very similar. They always say Italians and Chaldeans, same corporation, different divisions. Yeah. But, we
gotta throw the Jews in there, too.
The Jews, yeah. I love the Jews, but my aunt actually married a Jewish guy out in Florida. Love the guy. And he says the same thing to us. He goes, man, your family, he goes, and they fight. I mean, they fight like every family. They fight constantly. And at the end of the day, it's like it never happened. Yeah. You know what I mean? So that's something that you really got to cherish. And, don't take it for granted. I told you that I actually wasn't able to be here with Heartbeat because I was in the hospital with COVID myself for a week. And, when you go in, you don't know if you're going to make it out when you head out, when you go in. You don't know if you're going to make it out in a stretcher or, if you're going to make it home, in one piece. And they called me. They visited me every single hour of every single day. They came in and made sure I was okay and that I was doing well. So
COVID's no joke.
It's
I
no joke.
Lost one of my heroes a few weeks ago, Jack Seaman.
Yeah. No, sorry.
Fucking terrible.
It is, man. But it's life, man. Life is not forgiving. It's not forgiving. It's a brutal world. So, it's things like that when you have your, I guess you could call your armor behind you.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah, you have your entourage behind you. You really cannot take that for granted. And that's something that's been with me my whole life.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, thanks again, man. It was great.
Absolutely, man. Thanks for having me. This was a lot of fun.
Thank you all for watching. We're going to sign off now. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share, of course. And hug your loved ones.
Hug your loved ones. Absolutely.